Please welcome me or help me in welcoming Micheal Li, VP of Data at Coinbase. He's an alumni from the Granger College of Engineering, formerly of LinkedIn, and now made the jump from Web 2 to Web 3. So we're very excited to have him, Micheal Li of Coinbase.
Thank you. First of all, I'm so excited to be back at the UIUC, although virtually, but there's so many great memories inside of my head. It just brings a lot of great memories I have. Super happy to be here. Thanks for the invitation to join the first ever blockchain summit at UIUC. My topic today is jump into the Web 3.0 data era. If one thing that I want to take away from here, given that I heard some of the questions asked during the Vitalik session, a lot of people want to join Web 3.0, right? And I want to tell you that the time is now. The time is now for you to jump into this industry. And there's so many amazing things happening. Obviously, my angle today is more from a data perspective. Just broadly speaking, there are so many opportunities and there's so much demand for talent, right, to join us as well. So that's actually a big part of the main purpose of my presentation is to show you how this industry looks like, how you can get in here, and what are the opportunities that's available in there actually. So first, maybe a little bit about myself, Micheal Li. My belief for my whole career has been empower people with data and technology. And this is from even my graduate study at UIUC. It's almost like the starting point that how I formed this belief and how I learned the skills and knowledge, right, to do this. So UIUC is the starting point, if you will, for my whole career on data. Now, my current role at Coinbase is the Vice President of Data. I joined Coinbase 3.5 years ago in late 2018. That was about the time that blockchain more and more become a known term to a lot of people, but then it wasn't as popular as today. Now that if you ask anyone that do you know about blockchain, I think a lot of people will tell you yes. I think just 3.5 years ago, probably only 10% of people that you ask around that they would know about blockchain. But you have seen that how fast this industry has been evolving, has been growing as well. Before that, I held different positions in different industries. Similarly, on the angle that I've been essentially using data, right, to create value for users for different applications in different industry. So LinkedIn was social network. Before that, eBay was e-commerce, and the Capital One was financial services, more in the traditional way. And all of this essentially helped me understand how data can be used, right, for different industries. And then there's a fundamental knowledge and skills that are actually very connected. And before I got my first job, I was studying climate change at UIUC. I was majoring in environmental sciences and engineering. I'll get into a little bit details around what I did at UIUC in the next slide. And before that, I got my bachelor degree from Fudan University in China in the same major. So let's talk about UIUC, given this summit is held at UIUC, and I spent a little more than 3 years at the UIUC campus. So the top picture, a panorama around the main quad, I think everybody is very familiar with it. Just this one picture make me really realize that how many great memories I had at the UIUC. I still remember the first day I was doing the orientation, learning all the exciting programs at the UIUC, and I got into the lab that I will be working on climate change for several years. And more than that, specific things I was able to learn and study at the UIUC are illustrated at the bottom with two pictures there. One on the left-hand side is obviously a set of partial differential equations. And some folks are familiar with this. Essentially, these are the governing equations for atmosphere and how it works. And a lot of that, what I did at the UIUC was solving these partial differential equations using 3D climate modeling. From a knowledge perspective, this helped me learn a lot about how mathematics is being used in data analysis, in static modeling, and more importantly, how we use computational programs to simulate all the different changes in climate and the long-term indication for our society, for human beings as well. This leads to the second picture on the right, the National Center of Supercomputing Applications. This is an integral part of being able to running these super complex models in a timely manner, right? So that you can get results, you can analyze it, you can see like, some of the indications based on different scenarios. So I would say that my study at USC really prepared me very well from a data perspective, because as part of the study, I need to collect data from all different places, process the data, put them into a format that the model can understand. And then after the model runs the simulations and predictions, eventually we got an output from a model that we also need to analyze, understand, and see that what we can do, right, based on all these predictions the model makes. And there's different scenarios that we can make recommendations to governments, to private sectors, to companies around how they can do better to help us improve climate. Obviously, climate change can be a hot topic just by itself. I'm not going to spend a lot of time today on that. What I'm trying to say here is UIUC really helped me prepare my career for almost everything that I have done so far really well. Right? I was trained with all the knowledge and technical skill sets that I need on the campus. And there's obviously the other memories I have at the UIUC. Personally, also, I remember Green Street used to be my favorite places for lunch. I remember the subway on Green Street. I used to get a daily sub every day. I remember the Atlanta Union. There's a lot of activities there. I remember the food court there. Just a lot of really great fun memory there. What I want you to know is I'm not the only UIUC alum at Coinbase, obviously. So we have more than 30 people that are working at Coinbase who graduated from UIUC. On the left-hand side, I highlighted a few UIUC alumni that are holding leadership positions at Coinbase. So you can see that the head of engineering, Manish Gupta, he graduated from a UIUC computer science department. And then Scott, our VP of Global Regulatory Policy, he's from UIUC as well. He was majoring in political sciences. On the product side, we have Love, who's leading our efforts on the Coinbase Cloud side. And on the marketing side, we have Justin Gorell, who's our head of growth marketing, helping us grow the business, grow our product as well. And other than the leaders in the company, we also have a lot of people who joined us from UIUC or they studied at UIUC before. There's a lot of them. I cannot have all of them here, just list a few. Maybe some of them you actually know. So about the questions that were asked during the Q&A with Vitalik, how you can get into Web3, you can see a lot of your alumni has already paved the road to you for you to a certain level. And we want to definitely bring more talent, right, to Coinbase, and UIUC is a great partner that we want to work with. So let's get back to the main topic today. And I want to take a step back just to talk about what does data do, because that has been the theme for my whole career. And using data in different places, understand that how data can add value. Really, that I think it boils down to three aspects: clarity, insights, and accountability. From clarity perspective, data help us keep informed, keep us honest. And one thing that I always say is wrong data is worse than no data. There wasn't a lot of data. And now we are living in a world that more and more that we have this proliferation of data that are surrounding us. What I found that is really helpful when you have the right data that provide clarity to you. But then when you have the wrong data around you, it actually oftentimes much worse than you don't have any data. The second piece of the contribution that data has is insights, right? The insight essentially is data that is timely and relevant, right? When you need to make certain decisions, and that's what we basically call insights. And insights is really critical for business operations and more for personal decisions as well nowadays, because they help you make better decisions. and that can help you improve your life, help the business improve their performance, is being used widely, right? Especially in the technology industry. The last piece, accountability. Data is being used in many ways today to measure performance, to be used as a true north metrics, and to hold everyone accountable, right? There's a very famous saying I think everyone knows by now from Peter Drucker that if you cannot measure it, you cannot manage it. And it's being used more and more in the modern business operations in companies as well. So next, I want to talk about the role that data plays in Web 1.0, 2.0, and 3.0, given that Web 3.0 becoming a more and more popular term nowadays. Let's take a step back and let's look at in the different generations, right? Like what role that data plays. In Web 1.0, high level that we can think about it as users get data. The way that Web 1.0 works usually is some of the existing information got digitized and users can consume it. A lot of this information was offline before, now they're online. It provides a convenience of you to obtain, to get that information. Mostly these websites or applications are read-only, backed by a single database. And one thing that is underutilized is the users' usage data, right? So essentially how you consume those information wasn't always taken into consideration. And therefore that user experience was not really an integral part of Web 1.0. Although users did get a lot of value through that, through the information that Web 1.0 company provided. So I have a few examples at the bottom. When we moved into Web 2.0, right? So then you have a few companies that I have as examples at the bottom, including social network companies, messaging companies, cloud. Essentially, a key piece here is, as I summarized, there is users create data. So at this point, users become actually an integral part of the business. And there's many interactions actually between users that are enabled through this new applications, new platforms. So user create information, and then it's being shared in different ways that facilitate user interactions oftentimes. Then what becomes of a concern or sometimes become conflict is the privacy issue, as we know nowadays more and more, because it's unclear that how privacy rules should be defined for a very long time. And also there's debates around who owns the data ultimately, who owns the value generated from the data as well. So today, most of the business model is built upon the data that are generated or created by users. And then the companies would benefit from the monetization from this data without necessarily giving back to the users. As we all know, advertising is a very good example, which a lot of tech giants today are relying on as a very, very profitable business model. Now, from a technology perspective, given these applications are hosting a lot more users, a lot more activities in there, we have been seeing that is always powered by a global database, or sometimes we call it cloud. However, these global databases, they're ultimately owned by the company, right? So they put a lot of guardrails around it, fences around them, so that they have unique special access to it. And then privacy essentially is at mercy of these companies and how well, right, they can guard them. So now we get into Web 3.0. This is the area that I categorize as users' own data, right? So when I say users' own data, I mean users not only owns the data that are generated, they're part of it, but also that they own the value created from the data as well. Right, witnessed by if you own the tokens for certain blockchains, as the tokens value appreciate, so you get that value right directly as a participant of the blockchain. And privacy and trust become easier because it's built on the user consensus. So your privacy is not relying on a third party that they will do a great job. You can actually participate in terms of how you shape up the privacy setup for this network, and therefore it creates a lot of trust. Or it enables an environment that you don't need a third party to help everyone keep trust with the network. And from a technology perspective, blockchain, you can think about this as a decentralized database with open access, essentially. So everyone has a copy of the blockchain if you want to, and you can get the data from it. So there's a few companies, at least at the bottom, that illustrate like what a Web 3.0 company is and what they're doing, can give you some ideas around like, this new industry and how this is gonna evolve. So if we take a close look at what the data at Coinbase look like, I can give you some high-level numbers. These numbers are all available on our investor relationship website, as in the footnote. We have more than 89 million users today, one of the biggest platform in the crypto industry, and it's growing very fast. We have more than $278 billion worth of assets on our platform. This includes both fiat and crypto. And our services are available in more than 100 countries. Obviously, the level of services are a little bit different depending on the region, depending on the country. But for the most part, we have our services available in a lot of countries, and we are adding more and more products and to help users around the globe to get access to Web 3.0. And then another angle to look at Coinbase data is also that the fact that Coinbase, we call ourselves a crypto company, because a lot of people asked question before that, is Coinbase a crypto company, financial services company, or technology company? And ultimately that our CEO gave the answer that we're a crypto company, which means that we effectively are a financial services company and a technology company, and more importantly, a blockchain or Web3 company. From a data perspective, what it's boiled down to is we need to have a very good handle for three very different type of data, right? The first type on the left-hand side is financial data. This is more in the traditional sense that financial services industry would have, around user payments, information, the transactions that are carried out, the balances, and also accounting tax related data as well. I would say that this category of data, given that they have been around for very long, we have mature technology to deal with them. So they're in a mature stage. And this data is also very, very private. We need to guard it very, very closely. The second type in the middle is what we call the product data. And these data are usually generated based on user activities, based on the different things that our users do on the platform. So we captured in the format of events for both front end and back end. This is product data is widely used for Web 2.0 companies, and we use it as a way to understand the different things that users may be interested in, the pain point that users may have. We use that to create a better user experience. So I would say that the stage for this type of data is developing, is getting better. And a lot of companies are sharing very similar challenges, and therefore that there's a common practice that is being formed as well. The last type of the data is blockchain data, obviously. And then in an interesting way that it's mostly publicly available, like I mentioned earlier. But also the development of blockchain data is actually is a very early stage, because the focus has been very much focused on make the network available, getting more users who use it. The data aspect actually hasn't been a big focus, at least for the past several years. We have been making a lot of efforts here to build a great foundation for blockchain data at Coinbase. And I will talk a little bit the details here. But as you can see that there's many more different data points here that are generated. Is very different in terms of how data is created and how you can use them. And there's more efforts that you can do on top to do entity tagging, to do clustering of different entities, etc. That's not necessarily publicly available, but it's derived, right, from publicly available information. So these are really the three types of data that we have to deal with at Coinbase. So I always joke that although that we're one company, right, oftentimes that we need to have the capacities and capabilities to handle almost like three company worth of the data foundation work that's required, that's needed to empower the business and empower our users. And the strategy that we have at Coinbase to make sure that data can be leveraged in the most effective, efficient way is what I call the Data 3.0 strategy, which is something that I created when I joined Coinbase almost 3.5 years ago. And this is based on my close to 15, 20 years experience in the industry, in different industries, observing how data can be best used, how data can be best created for various different use cases. I won't go into the details. I have a blog on Coinbase blog site to describe this journey from data 1.0, which is categorized as very reactive, very manual as a service in most of the companies, to data 2.0, where you can improve the productivity for the data team to generate more analysis or insights to have better decision making, all the way to data 3.0, which is a systematic way of building data systems that work really well in a coherent way and can continue to scale while expanding to more and more use cases. So at Coinbase, essentially our data operations is at the data 3.0 stage. And the interesting thing, obviously, is how we apply data 3.0 strategy to Web 3.0, right, when it comes to data. And that's something that exactly what we're working on, which I'll talk a little bit in more details. So then when it comes to blockchain, right, why data plays a really important role here, I simply basically copy paste from Investopedia about the description of blockchain. And you can see it is very much strongly related to data. Right. First of all, blockchain is a specific type of database. In fact, like I mentioned, that is a decentralized database that has open access for all the data that are generated as part of the blockchain. And as the name describes, that is blockchains, essentially are blocks of data, right, that are chained together in a chronological way. Right. Each block is generated, the new block is always attached to the previous block. And then you can see that based on the timestamp when the block is created, where the block is and in what sequence, right, the block should be. And one really important aspect for blockchain also is immutable, right? When the data is created, you cannot go back and change it. And that's really important aspect because it keeps us moving forward and keep us honest, right? Like you can always add more data on top of it, but you cannot change the history. So that just provides a really good new database system, if you will. That's what blockchain as a technology, right? Like that's why I was so excited about blockchain when I understand aspect, especially like data plays in blockchain. So if we dig into a little bit more the mechanics of blockchain transactions, and you can see that how you can look at it from a data perspective as well. So some of these charts are basically get them from the very famous Bitcoin white paper that Satoshi wrote in 2008. And then we look into some of the details here. The chart on the left in the middle, you can see these are the illustration of blocks, right? So each block, there are 2 blocks here. The blocks are chained together through hash ID. And each block, within that block, you have multiple transactions that are essentially bundled together into that block. And on the right, if you look into that a particular transaction, you have input and output. The input has input addresses. Essentially, these are addresses from the sender. And output addresses, these are the addresses for the receivers. And that's how a transaction is formed on blockchain. And the bottom chart describes a little bit interesting aspect about the privacy in blockchain compared to traditional transactions, financial transactions, if you will. So at the top, it describes the traditional privacy model where all these financial transactions from user identities to the actual transactions and the trusted third party, usually it's a bank, it's a credit card company, and also the counterparty who's the receiver of the transaction. Now, all these data, effectively, are guarded in a database some company owns. and the public has almost no visibility into it. And then the new privacy model that blockchain enables essentially is, other than your identities, the whole transactions, in terms of the transaction amount, in terms of the sender, receiver, address information, they're actually all available into the public. Well, this is more Bitcoin specific. We have chains, not necessarily this is always the case. But then for the most part, what blockchain enables is you can have your identities in private mode, but then the transaction information are actually out there, and then the community can help keep this environment as a trust environment through a certain consensus. So if we put blockchain transaction data into practice using one very simple example here. So as we can see here, this is a very simple transaction. And then the website here describes the hash ID, the status being successful. You know which block these transactions are at, the timestamp of the block when it was created, the senders, the receivers, and into their address and amount of the transaction as well, and also the gas fee, right? That was used to empower this transaction. Now, if you put them into a data table format, you get two rows for this transaction. The first row describes what currency this is, what chain this is on which block, the timestamp of it, and the inputs and outputs. Essentially, inputs and outputs are a blob of information in there that need further parsing. And then the second row describes essentially the gas fee, right? That was needed to enable this transaction. Now, this is the simplest format. You can see that how blockchain data can be stored. But there's a lot more efforts that need to follow this to really parse the data into a format that can be further consumed. Now you can imagine that there's so many chains out there, each chain is different. There's a lot of efforts actually needed to bring this data together, to normalize them, to put them into a format that can be consumed further by different use cases. And that's what we have been working on. So on the very high level that you can think about it as, we want to make data 3.0 strategy work for Web 3.0. And then the part that we call it a crypto data foundation. The idea is blockchain is decentralized, is to serve the whole community. But the hard part is when you have a lot of blockchains, we need to have a way to bring data from different blockchains, bring them together, and then serve a unified user experience to make things easier for you. In a way, you can think about internet gets really popular, not because we educate everybody to know about HTTP, TCP/IP. It's one that the massive adoption happens when you have mobile apps that are super easy for you to use internet. I think a lot of people today, when they use internet, they know it's internet, they probably don't know a lot of things under the hood. I believe that in the future, that blockchain will be like that as well. When we enable a lot of these use cases with blockchain as underneath technology, but people, especially from a consumer perspective, don't necessarily have to understand a lot of the basic concepts at the protocol level, at the basic technical level. Now, the crypto data foundation, what we really think about it, you can see in this rectangle here, is a data infrastructure that is built with blockchain, which is all the nodes, in this chart, as you can see, as well as all the relationships between these nodes, right, from all different blockchains. And we want to bring them together into a time series so that you have all the fundamental atomic level data that can be used to power all the applications on the top. We want to build out machine learning systems based on the crypto data foundation for personalization, recommendation, for risk management, search feed, all these probably concepts that you're already familiar with Web 2.0. But then we are missing a layer, right, that we can prepare the data in a format that can empower all these use cases. And ultimately, and we see that is actually the demand is increasing in the industry, and we're working on empowering more and more use cases. So a deeper look, right, like into this crypto data foundation, really what it is a scalable blockchain data stack that's needed, right, to empower all Web3 applications. And from a technical perspective, the key things that it achieves is low latency data with high quality, with agility, and a great refreshness. So we think about, in general, like there's three big layers, right? For the crypto data foundation, we call it bronze, silver, and gold. In general, the way we think about it is bronze is raw data layer from different blockchains. Silver is cleansed data. And then gold is curated data that is ready to be used, to be consumed in many different ways. And when we say quality, really is how well the data is organized and can be used, and how easy that it can be used as well. So I list out some of the characteristics here in the table below here. But really that this is how we think about that on the highest level, the architecture, right, for our crypto data foundation. Now, if we zoom in a little bit more, right, like how do we serve Web3 applications with this crypto data foundation? So as you can see the chart on the right, from bronze layer, right, the storage is a key theme here, and we need to transform the blockchain data in the storage into a certain format that can be further consumed. For the silver layer in the middle, we create something called a chain connect. And this is usually that the data that is normalized that can be leveraged by data scientists, machine learning engineers, researchers out there, right, to make sense of data to do further research on. And then the gold databases effectively are data that readily to be used by different applications. So we use some of the example here as some of the indexers that our applications can read and write into, and then to power different use cases directly. So I won't go into details here. We will be publishing a white paper about how the whole chain stack, that's what we call it, works. And also we are planning to externalize some of these services as they become more mature to the broader public as well. The most recent example I can share with you guys is the Coinbase NFT that launched just 2 days ago, right? April the 20th. Highly encourage you to check it out. It's at nft.coinbase.com. It's essentially powered in many parts by Crypto Data Foundation already. So I highlighted a few here. The search is powered by Crypto Data Foundation. All the backend queries, all the data behind it. The discover piece is based on the machine learning model built based on Crypto Data Foundation. And trending also is the insights, right, that you can aggregate based on Crypto Data Foundation as well. So as you can see that a big part of the NFT marketplace from Coinbase is based on the Crypto Data Foundation. And this is just one big use case that was recently launched, and you'll see more and more, right? Like, from Coinbase, and we hope that we can work with the community to power more Web3 applications using the Crypto Data Foundation we're building as well. Cool. I want to wrap it up for Web 3.0 data. In many ways, like I said, we are just getting started. We still need a better data infrastructure, which we're building, but broadly speaking, we need to make it a lot better. We need standard ways of storing, computing, in general, processing and consuming blockchain data. There are still limited use cases. To Vitalik's point, there are so many more applications that we can build on top of Web3. And we actually can empower all that, but we need to just continue to fund and build towards it. And we really in need of in-depth research. We need a lot more academic participation here to really study, right? Like, the data that's generated through blockchain and a lot of indications coming out of it. So we are also looking for partnership with academia for these efforts. And another signal that you can see this industry is booming also is there's lots of startups working on it. Just to give you a sense, this is a small sample of all the startups that in the crypto industry, they are categorized into different parts of the crypto industry as well. I won't go into detail here. This is just for you to get a sense around there's many innovations that are being worked on in the industry. It's really, really exciting. And the time is now to jump. This is the last slide I have here. Like I mentioned in the very beginning, the time is now to jump into Web 3.0, and Coinbase is a great place to start. We really want more and more talent to join us and to learn how you can contribute to the industry. And I believe that this is a great moment to be part of industry as well. This always reminds me around the early days for internet, where people are still defining what the internet is. But everybody knows that internet will become a mainstream at a certain point. I think we're feeling exactly the same for blockchain right now. And then there's so many years of fast growing of the industry down the road as well. So we have a QR code here, QR code there. It's very easy for you to scan. If you want to pull out your phone right now, scan it. It will take you to our career website, or you can just go to coinbase.com/careers. We have all the job opportunities there listed out. So come work with us, especially come work with your UIC alumni. If you know some of these folks, feel free to reach out. I think LinkedIn is actually a great platform to find out who actually is working at Coinbase, but also graduated from UIUC. So if you want to learn more, these are great resources, great connections for you. All right, that's all my presentation. Happy to take some questions from the audience.
Michael, thank you so much. Really appreciate your the thoughts that you've shared with us here today. I had a quick question for you. As we look at indexing these different database systems that are Web3, are there places that we could go is this an open source project, open source work? How do we know what's been indexed or hasn't? I'd love to hear from you about that.
Yeah, so like I mentioned, right, like a big benefit of the blockchain is the data effectively is public, right? Everyone can spin up a node, get a copy of the blockchain if you want to. The hard part is how you process data and then put it into a format that can be consumed, can be used more easily. We're making that effort, and we believe that we should contribute back to the community. So we are working on at least making some of this part of this crypto data foundation available to the public. So stay tuned. I cannot say the roadmap yet, but you will see more efforts that we want to open this up, right? More and more with the industry, with academia. You'll see more research efforts that we'll be putting here. We'll be partnering with universities and institutions on this effort as well.
Wonderful, thank you.
Sorry, can you repeat the earlier part of the question?
Basically, the question is what steps, milestones, in which order you would take them to develop a blockchain solution. So for example, if you have the idea to broke health data and now you want to use the blockchain so that there is transparency, all the technical, let's say, features we have learned about, where do you start to design your own solution? Do you start with the business processes and with the rule set for the general ledger, or do you start with the technology and just feed in? So what would be the recommended approach?
Yeah, I think first of all, a certain level of understanding of the capabilities of blockchain and how it works is required, right? For you to think about the application on top. So getting into a little bit more details on the technical side will be required, I would say, and then see that if the business problem you have in mind can be solved, right? And then what's the way that it can be solved? I think you need to have a technical counterpart, right? Like to work with you in terms of what will be certain architecture that can be designed, right, to solve the business problem. I think blockchain, as it is right now, it still requires a good amount of learning, right, before that you fully understand the capability it has. I think Vitalik also mentioned a similar thing that it's not the hardest technology for sure, but it does take a certain amount of learning, right, before you fully understand, right, the capabilities or the potentials there. There's some really good boot camps that are offered out there. I would suggest that you take some of the boot camp. Usually like it could be a few weeks. Some of them could be just a few hours. Once you learn more about it, it will help you think through like what are the business problems that you can solve with it. Did it answer your question?
Yes, thank you.
Yeah.
Hi, Michael. My name is Ashwath. Thanks for your time today. So just a question about your data practice. Do you guys at Coinbase use like existing data, blockchain data solutions like Nansen or Dune Analytics, or do you guys have like your own proprietary internal like solutions that you use for collecting data?
Yeah, that's a very good question. We use a combination of both, if you will, both our internal data processing, but also the external ones as well. Because we believe that we need to get the combination of the benefits of all, right? The different data sources, and see where we need certain data applications. We constantly evolve, right? Like our in-house solutions as well. But in the meantime, we know that there's so many things happening out there, so we want to leverage the best from the industry as well. So I guess the short answer is both sides. But then over time, we try to build more and more in-house into our comprehensive solutions, if that makes sense.
Yeah, thank you.
Mm-hmm.
Hi, Michael. Thank you so much for speaking. So I have a quick question regarding Coinbase's education practices. So Coinbase is widely regarded as an education platform for cryptocurrencies, and they've been doing a fantastic job so far. With your recent revelation of your competitor to OpenSea, essentially, that NFT marketplace, what is Coinbase's plans to educate people about NFTs?
Yeah, that's a very good question. In fact, that if you go to nft.coinbase.com, there's a very good FAQ website, if you will, right? We try to keep it very easy to navigate. In the meantime, that if you want to dig into a certain concept, there's a help page behind it, right? Like give it a try there. Like, when you look at a NFT, a particular NFT, there's a lot of this small icon next to it. When you click on it, it will take you to the help website, which has a lot of really detailed explanation about how this works. I think in general, our product team has been doing great work in designing some of these help pages ahead of time, so that you can learn, right? Like as you go.
Thank you so much.
Mm-hmm.
Hi, Michael. My name is Tyler Pathradecha. I'm actually a fitness influencer on TikTok with around 300,000 followers. But I remember using Coinbase way back when Coinbase Pro was called GDAX still. I didn't do much at the time, but around 8 months ago, I really got back into the space and started participating. Mm-hmm. I remember seeing an interview with you on Decode at UC Berkeley, and you mentioned that that you think data is going to be, blockchain data specifically, is a really untapped area and still kind of a nascent area. Mm-hmm. And I want to know what's the biggest pain point at Coinbase that you see with better leveraging this data to drive more insights, and how can people like me or others in this room really what should we focus on to kind of solve those pain points?
Yeah, I think the biggest pain point is this industry is evolving so quickly, right? It's changing so quickly as well. So whatever that we do almost become, I wouldn't call it obsolete, but it will need constant improvement, right? For whatever that you're doing, while we're building a brand new solution, right? To empower the whole industry as well. So it's almost like we need to catch up first, right? There's certain demands that are already in place. So we need to create the technical capability to support existing use cases, but there are more and more use cases that are being built in the meantime, right? So both dimensions that you need to put in the efforts to keep up with the industry. I would say that's also part of the fun part, right? There's also new things coming out, like Bitcoin, Ethereum has been around for very long. Solana is quite new, right? So essentially, when it comes to data, Solana is more challenging than Ethereum and Bitcoin because these two are more well understood, if that makes sense, right? So I would say that that's part of the benefits, if you will, for younger generation of the talent, because you don't have a lot of the legacy systems that you have to deal with, if you will, but you can jump in and to the newest thing and see how to make it work. And all the surrounding things around a new system usually are the ones, right, that are being worked on, or that's the biggest challenge usually. So for existing problem, there's many people are solving, but the newer the problem is, it tends to be opportunities, right? Like for startups or for people who are new in the industry to become expert, before anyone else, if that makes sense.
Got it. Thank you.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Hi, Michael. We have used OpenSea for decades. So how Coinbase want to beat them? How confident you guys are?
So first of all, I'm not a product guy, right? I don't I cannot really give you a detailed answer about the product strategy that we have. And also, I think that usually I think about the competition as a really good thing for the industry broadly. If you see no companies competing in the industry, it usually means that industry is not growing, right? For a growing industry, you should see more and more competition, which we are seeing for NFT. I think beyond OpenSea and Coinbase, there's actually many players who want to get in as well. That's a really good thing for the industry. I believe competition makes the best product for our users. So, I guess my high-level comments there is I'm hoping this competition can help different companies to realize they need to provide the best services and products, right, to win the customer eventually, and the customers essentially are benefited in the end. That's my belief, and I don't want to comment too much about how as Coinbase what our product strategy is, because really that should go to our product managers.
Thanks.
Hey there. This company, Coinbase, has a lot of regulations related to how you deal with your customers and interactions thereof. How do you then sort of deal with some of the more legally ambiguous parts of the Web3 ecosystem, such as permissionless DeFi and DAOs? Yeah.
Definitely is a big focus of the company. Again, I'm not in a good position to comment on legal practices. We actually have a alum, Scott, right? He's our VP of Global Regulatory Policy. I wish that he's here to maybe give some comments there. But broadly speaking, I think Coinbase strives to be the most compliant, most trusted platform, right, when it comes to crypto. So we definitely want to play on the side that we work with our lawmakers, regulatory agencies, right, to shape out what's the best for this industry. I don't know if that's a answer that you're looking for, but that's to the extent I think I can comment on it.
All right. Well, thank you.
Great. Okay. Well, Michael, thank you so much for your time, for coming, and for speaking with us today, answering our questions. Really excited to have an alumni of your stature working at this intersection of technology and business. So thank you very much, and we'll look forward to following you as your career progresses and Coinbase grows.
Yeah, and I look forward to having more and more UIUC alumni working at Coinbase as well. Thank you, guys. Have a great day. Yeah.
Absolutely.